himself.
Good morning. Buenos dias, everybody. First of all, I want to say thank you to the San Luis Mosaic Project, Annie, for steering this and making this happen, and Betsy Cohen and Suzanne Sierra, who are great collaborators. And Kenny, thank you so much for joining in partnership with the city. I am Gilberto Pinela. I am the inaugural director of the Office of New Americans for the city of St. Louis, under the direction of our mayor, Mayor Tishaura O. Jones, who um, established the office back in 2023 during her State of the City address. And I got hired incredibly. It feels like a year now, but it's only been 7.5 months to today. So I'm excited to be here today, tell you a little bit about what I'm doing to work on the foundation of the creation of this office, and how we are working in collaboration with the county and in collaboration with our direct service community service providers to make sure that St. Louis City is a welcoming city that also is a place where people that are coming, global talent that's coming in, and new Americans that are coming in, feel not only that they're welcome, but that they belong and they can establish roots here in St. Louis. So I'm looking forward to a great conversation today.
So am I.
Okay. So are we gonna?
Are we?
We're going, right?
Oh, okay,
We're
we're going.
going. Okay. So
Yes, we're
you wanna
going. Yes.
talk?
All right.
Okay, you
So
want to talk about the initiatives?
I'll talk about a little bit something to start off first. One of the things that's important for St. Louis County is to become a welcoming county. So we're working on things like language access plan, which we've moved up in our timetable to try and get out quicker. Now, one thing I had to kind of give a disclaimer about government. Some plans are in the make and we're working, and some things that we'll already present. But I can't present something until it's been signed off and checked. The boxes have been checked. The T's have been crossed, the I's T's have been crossed, the I's have been dotted. So sometimes some of the things we're working on are in flux, like our language access plan. Right now we're working on it, but we have a lot of great elements for it, and we've kind of pulled it out of the 2050 comprehensive plan. Now, what the 2050 comprehensive plan is, it's a big comprehensive plan that kind of says where St. Louis County is going, what we need to get done, and why we need to do it. So let me give you a little background about that. The last comprehensive plan for St. Louis County was adopted in 1980. It was an update. It was updated in 1985, and it's recognized. And then we started recognizing the dynamic changes that we've been through since that time. So that's over 4 decades ago. And now we started a new 2050 plan, and St. Louis County has partnered with AMCOM, the Shockley Consulting, Rise Community Development, H3 Studios, and we've gone out into the public and talked to different public stakeholders about what do you need out of the comprehensive plan. What we heard a lot in the public sphere when we talk about what people need out of the comprehensive plan, what we heard a lot is about welcoming immigrants and making our county more acceptable for people to sit down roots here and grow their family, grow their businesses, and really recruiting talent. My friend Gilberto said a minute ago, a lot of things that are priority in this whole regional area is about recruiting talent. And we have a great dynamic world to recruit talent from. We just have to be in the same regional place. And so sometimes a county government talking to a city government, it takes some time to melt those communications, really work properly and make sure that we're all on the same page. But the value that we have in this whole region is to promote and welcome new talent. So that's one of the basic things that we find very important. We want those talented people from all over the world to come put down roots in St. Louis. So that's why we're building things like a 2050 plan. That's why we're building things like a language access plan. That's why we're looking at St. Louis County has recently used our economic development powers to have flights to different nations. We opened up a direct flight to Germany. We opened up a direct flight to Canada. Recently, some of our leadership has even talked to our sister area cities of St. Louis, Senegal, And we haven't opened up a direct flight to there yet, but we're looking at other places to open up direct flights. And that also spurs the opportunity for immigrants to move into our area, use those direct flights to go back home when they need to get resources or help and talk with family. But the more we are an international hub area, the better and more welcoming we become. We prioritize things like
Hmm.
language access. We prioritize things like bias management and training and talking to our police about how you interact with difference. And we prioritize working with the city, who's been a great partner for us, to make sure we're doing the best we can to welcome some of that talent.
Yeah, and following that, our collaboration, you can see it, you can see it, you can feel it. I know that we fully invested in working with the county in those new flights that are going to Canada. I mean, they had the train mission that the
Mhm.
mayor participated on, and also Lufthansa when they came here. We're like a very supportive and using some of our resources to make sure that we continue to work aggressively and diligently to attract global talent to come here to St. Louis, and not only to come here to St. Louis, but to feel that they belong so they can establish roots. So, with the creation of the Office of New Americans, Mayor Jones wanted to make sure that we not only did the talk, but we also did the walk. And some of the initiatives similar to what you're doing in St. Louis County, language access is very important, and it's baby steps when it
Mhm.
comes to just doing things that are very noticeable, like changing the way that the menu on the website is presented so you have access to different languages. Um, Introducing PSAs using STL our communications division, to make sure that we inform our new arrivals and our new communities that are coming in their language, what's going on in the city of St. Louis. Building strong community service providers partnerships, because that is key. Working with organizations like St. Louis Mosaic, dealing with global talent and the international mentoring program on one end, making sure that people are aware that the city and the county, they are places where people belong. Also working with Susan Sierra, um, with STL Para Ti. So the new arrivals that are Latino, they have their in their language. They have the opportunity to thrive and understand what's going on here in the city as well as in the county. And then I'm working with city government agencies to make sure not only that that language access facility is that tool is available to our residents, but also that we transform government in the way that we see new Americans here in St. Louis, so they don't feel that they are welcome. They feel that they belong and establish roots, open businesses, and grow their families here. And so those are some of the initiatives that we are working
I would like to
on
touch
right now with the Office of New Americans.
I would like to touch on one thing that Gilberto just picked up, which is very important to me and very important to all of us. When he says we're outreaching to different people, both him and myself work with
Hmm.
Telemundo as they came into the area. And we definitely want to have that strong relationship because we know presenting government information to people in the language they first speak is important. And Telemundo is going to
Hmm.
be a very big player in this area, as we've seen a lot of Spanish speaking immigrants be the curve of people we want
Hmm.
to invite, make sure they feel safer, make sure they feel secure, and make sure that they're happy enough living in this region to be like, hey, let me tell some friends and family
Hmm.
that St. Louis is a good place to come set down roots and build a family. So that work with Telemundo, we were fortunate enough to have the county executive even put down a commercial on Telemundo, and he speaks a little Spanish, so he was able to do that. We were very proud of him. Trying to get a county executive to say something in another language can be challenging because he wants to make sure he says it correctly. But he does have some background with that language, so he was able to. But what we wanted to show the people more than anything is that we'll go that extra mile, and we know Tishaura,
Yeah.
Mayor Tishaura is the same way. Both our leaders will go that extra mile to try and
Yeah.
make city and the county be more welcoming to people. And if that means speaking a few lines in their languages, we'll absolutely do it.
Well, Kenny, I can say to the public that to the participants of this webinar, and by the way, thank you for participating and engaging with us. I can say that Mayor Jones is very much um, invested in making sure that we are a welcoming city for new Americans, for that global talent. She's in the Latino Alliance, in the U.S. Conference of Mayors. She is working proactively, opening the door to the office of the mayor, hosting welcoming receptions. We just hosted a very
Mhm.
successful welcoming reception for the International Mentoring Program and the expats here at City Hall. We're doing an international food day at City Hall because the leadership of Mayor Jones is so strong in saying, go for it. Make sure that not only we are doing programs and services to transform government, but also that we are making sure that every person that comes through City Hall is aware that we have different cultures. So I partner with the International Institute to do an international food day right here at City Hall during the months that it's not so hot in the rotunda. So we had Afghan food, we have Puerto Rican food, we have Bosnian food so far, and in the fall when we start the program again, we'll have Brazilian and Mexican food to celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month and so forth. But we're not stopping there. I also, appreciate the partnership with Telemundo, but I also have to appreciate the partnerships that we have with Red Latina and
Mhm.
other newspapers and other publications in other languages. So, with that in mind, we partner with CIMA, our City Emergency Management Agency, to create the first very inclusive PSAs on the notified STL, which is so important for somebody that's moving into St. Louis and there is a weather inclement. We created PSAs in different languages for people to sign up to get notifications whenever there's a tornado or whenever there's a weather emergency happening or any kind of emergency happening here in the city of St. Louis. And we are going to take it further. We will make sure that whenever you hear a siren, whenever there's an announcement after the siren or before the siren happens, that we include different languages in those announcements as well. Because if you moved here from a place that you were oppressed and that you were in conflict and you hear a siren, we do not want you to think that that is a sound of trouble in terms of somebody attacking you. We want you to make sure that you take cover because it is a weather inclement. So those are some of the things that we're doing right now with the programming and the collaboration. And obviously, we are intensifying our collaboration with UCAN and San Luis County to make sure that we're participating in events like the Sister City celebration that just celebrated the Sister City of Senegal, San
Mhm.
Luis and San Luis City. And whenever there's a trade delegation coming into town, we want to make sure that we are at that table as well and we can be as welcoming because whatever happens in the county affects the city and whatever happens in the city affects the
Absolutely.
county. So we all have to work together in order to grow the region and attract that global talent.
We can't stress enough that regional unity is our paradigm. This is what we're thinking, a way we're thinking towards inviting immigrants and to making both of our regions more secure. But we don't really look at St. Louis City and St. Louis County as two different regions. We look at ourselves as one region that
Mm-hmm.
works together to do the best we can to help our citizens. So, like Gilberto just said, Mayor Jones did take a great step in leadership to make sure that all the different departments have touches. But another thing that both Mayor Jones and County Executive Page did is they work with our local libraries to make sure libraries have resources
Mhm.
for people. So if somebody wants to just put their children there to read because they have to go job hunting and they're immigrant, they don't have a lot of resources. Those libraries have a lot of resources to help you find jobs, to help you look for
Mhm.
services. And our librarians have been tasked to, if you see somebody who really needs help, go the extra mile and help them because those are hubs of information and we don't want siloed information. One thing that's kind of hard for government to do, and I'm not sure if other regions in Missouri always do it as well as our regions, but we try and break those silos and make sure people get the information they need in the language they best digest that information. And we work with our different police departments. Our police have formal
Mhm.
translators. So if they have an interaction with somebody and that person's speaking Bosnian or a language they're not aware from, we have formal translators those police officers can go to. And people might take that for granted, but that is crucially important when it comes to some people might be having the worst day of their life and they have to interact with the police department. It would be made worse if that language barrier was there. So we do everything we can
Mhm.
to make sure the police officers have access to proper translated services. And let me be clear, not AI, someone who speaks the
Yeah.
language. Because artificial intelligence and language, there's still a long way to go before artificial intelligence can actually translate properly for a dynamic situation when someone's rights are at stake.
Well, and Kenny, to your point, understanding the cultural differences and the cultural habits of a community goes beyond AI, right?
Oh,
So we have those translation services available. We partner with, again, the International Institute to offer translation services. Sometimes, if the International Institute is not able to provide, I'll seek help from other agencies to make sure. I know our police department as well have translation services available. We have taken it now to the step of making sure that the U visa certification process with the San Luis Metropolitan Police Department, it's more expedient and more efficient and faster than it has been before. So we are working with Maggie Barone out of the San Luis Metropolitan Police Department and the team from MICA, which is one of our local community service providers, to make sure that the certification process, whenever there is a victim that is a foreign born individual, that they can expedite, they can go through the process of getting that U visa certified more efficient than it has been in the past. Those are the things that we're working internally to make sure our government works for every resident of the city of St. Louis. And now I'm going to pivot a little bit and also mention that another thing that we're doing with the Office of New Americans here in the city of St. Louis, in the way that we're transforming government, I am holding the boards and commissions accountable, making sure that we are inclusive of foreign born individuals that are residents of the city in commissions, working with Michael at the commission level to make sure that whenever we have a vacancy, if we have a candidate that we can send their way that lives in the city and can participate in a commission, we can fulfill that vacancy with somebody that represents a community, right? Because it is important. Representation matters. And it
mhm.
doesn't just matter when it comes to, language access. It also matters when you're sitting at the table and being a participant and being proactively engaged in making sure that the policies that our governments are working on are inclusive of every different community that it's living in our cities, in our regions. So um I'm excited about the work that we're doing through the Office of New Americans to transform city government, and I am even more excited to know that we are working in collaboration, Kenny, with you and San Luis Mosaic Project to make sure that our region is as inclusive and as welcoming as we can be.
Another thing
Mhm.
that I need to mention, would like to mention. Sorry, Annie, did you have a question you wanted to
No,
go
no,
there?
you go
Okay,
ahead. I was just going to remind people to put questions in the Q&A if they have questions.
okay. Well,
Okay.
our Department of Public Health is a very important part of that touches the people, and our director, Dr. Cunningham, works so well with the city Department of Public Health that they have conversations and they look at how to make health a regional issue. While their roles are definitely in the city and in the county, but they do work together to make it a very regional
Hmm.
issue. And they work very hard to make sure that people can approach them in their language and that the services, the medical services provided, are provided in the language people can understand and digest. And that is a very powerful thing because I think until these two doctors were in charge of the public health, I don't know if our two the Department of Public Health worked together as well as they did ever before.
Hmm.
So this is a new frontier for two dynamic women doctors that are really leading the way in the area.
And to your point, it is important that we strengthen and continue to strengthen that collaboration, because the need of making sure that we attend to new arrivals,
Hmm.
people that have issues, whether it is because they're refugees coming from a place that have been in conflict, or global talent getting adjusted to a new life because they're working for a corporation here in St. Louis, or a student that is an international student and they need to learn how to basically assimilate, although I don't like to use that word, assimilate to our culture here in St. Louis so they can navigate through the system and then feel like they belong and perhaps stay here, which is what we want, right?
That's what
So one of the focuses of the office is not only working with different agencies like the Behavioral Health Department, the Department of Health for St. Louis City, and Human Services, but also working with Slate to help on transforming how we grow the workforce and how we continue to train people that are qualified, that can be of service to the city and to companies. How can we position them in help them be positioned in places where they can maximize, their abilities, their skill, so they can also contribute to the tax base. They can
absolutely.
contribute by growing our economy, and also plant their roots here so they can grow their families and we can have population gain.
And we do believe that immigrants bring new innovation and new jobs. For every person that gets a job, they might have family support that wants to start a new business, start a new restaurant, start a new something. And that's important. We want to make sure that they have that aid and that help. So we work pretty hard with our St. Louis Economic Development Corporation to make sure that there's some money flowing to places and there's also the mindset of help, the mindset that we county government come to serve people and make this region grow. And the best way to make this region grow is through immigration.
Yes, yes. I mean, and inviting global talent to move to St.
Absolutely.
Louis and stay here in St. Louis, whether that is through the form. I mean, the universities are doing a fantastic job. I
They
know
are.
that Webster University is one of the leading universities to welcome students from India, and also Washington and St. Louis University as well. They're working really hard in making sure that they recruit and attract international students that are coming into St. Louis. So we are working in collaboration with them and other community service organizations, with the educational institutions and then community services organizations, in order to make sure that we can provide the tools that these international students need in order for them to see St. Louis as a place where they want to stay.
So how are you like working with local businesses and communities or community organizations to get them involved in working with new Americans? Is there something specific that I know you have language
Yeah,
access and you've talked about that.
absolutely. One of the things we do is we bring community organizations into the stakeholder position, and that means we look at members from community organizations, see if they can sit on some of our board and commissions so they have that direct input. What Gilberto was talking about earlier is very important. Having someone from the immigrant community or someone with that experience on one of our board or commissions, that helps influence policy from its very inception. Not having someone there, people might not even think about that whole experience and how it's necessary to cater our policies that are expensive. So that's why we invest very heavily in making sure that members of our boards and commission that it really looks like the texture of our communities, and that's diverse.
Mm-hmm.
I don't just run the Office of Diversity, Equity, Inclusion. I also work well with the boards and commissions manager. His name is Matt. Matt's a great guy, but Matt searches up and down every day to get a very
Mm-hmm.
diverse and understanding texture on our boards and communities, so we don't have that missing place in the policy from the begin with. So it's not inceptually leaving someone out. And I can't tell you how really valuable that is, but I find I can tell the difference in legislation that has been well thought out and thought of communities. So as we build things in St. Louis County, like our 2050 plan, one of the things we're really looking at is maximizing county transportation. And what does it mean for citizens to move around? Not everybody has a car. Not everybody has access to their own personal vehicle. They might need public
Mm-hmm.
transportation or cabs or things like that, and they might have special things. So looking at that and planning that out, but having an immigrant at the table helping plan that out is exactly why, as we build our 2050 plans, we go to those immigrant communities and ask what type of transportation model can we help build that will really help you and affect your community. And that's
Mm-hmm.
the same mindset that's not just in St. Louis County. St. Louis City is doing the same.
Yeah, we are doing the same. Looks like we had a little technical difficulty with
Yeah,
Kenny.
I think it's frozen. So
Okay.
you can take it from here if it's
Yeah,
frozen.
so I want to expand on that because yes, those are our focus. Oh, Ken, you're back.
Yeah, I'm back. Yeah, I
You're
got
back.
frozen out for a
So
second.
you got so excited that the system couldn't handle it. Anyway, so I want to expand on your comment, Ken, because we're working similarly, and it's great because as we think about St. Louis as a region of collaboration, everything is so important. So, for example, I'm working with the team at the St. Louis Land Utilization Plan in making sure that we are inclusive of new American communities in everything that they're planning on the strategic planning that will happen on how we will utilize land in the future. Same way with the north-south route of the Green Line that it's now in the planning stage. I am making sure that I include that we are inclusive of community. We just had an event at San Francis Community Services to talk about what are the needs for new Americans, when it comes to public transportation. How can we facilitate easier public transportation, understanding what public transportation is for people that perhaps are not accustomed to get on a bus or to get on a train. So, beginning with language,
Mhm.
understanding. I heard a story while we were in the Green Line meeting, talking about that some people are that are new Americans, that are new arrivals, they are afraid of taking the bus, and not because of any other than not understanding if or not being afraid to say this is my stop, I got to stop here, and not knowing where the stop is, or being able to communicate to the driver, hey, I got to stop here, this I got to get off the bus here. So some people have just kept going
Right,
until the end of the line
right.
on the bus, and then they get intimidated and they said, okay, I'm not going to get on the bus anymore. So we're working with the Green Line to north south to make sure that we can change that. That how can we implement systems in order to make sure that new American communities not only the language access is a factor of it, but also the cultural sensitivity of what it is to take a train or a bus,
Hmm.
from some people that have never or may have never taken a bus before in their lives. So those are a few of the things that we're doing.
It's
Okay.
also
So we
important to
feel like,
understand that mindset of someone who might have trauma around taking the train or bus from where they come from. It might have been a different experience,
mhm,
but just making it a more welcome experience so they feel safer using our public utilities. That's very important.
mhm,
Another aspect that I want to touch on while I have a moment here, and that is when the county executive pulled me in his office one day, he told me that he did not know that before him in hiring a lot of people, it wasn't even asked of that candidate, what's your paradigm on welcoming immigrants? And that's something that the county executive, and I know the mayor Tishaura also, in our new
mhm,
hires, we now look specifically as how will you fit into the welcoming environment that we want to make as a new hire? How will you
mhm.
work with these different departments to make sure, because both of our leaders value immigration as a way to build this area up better. When I said in the
Yes.
beginning, we want to form a more perfect union, the way to do that is to bring a diverse amount of people from all over the world with specific and new different talents and build that new, St. Louis region here. But one way to do that better is to make sure everyone we hire, we just hired some new people, but make sure that they have that same welcoming mindset, and that we specifically asked them, do you have a welcoming mindset? Do you care about immigrations in our area? That's the people we hire.
Yeah, we echoing, and I know that we have some questions, Annie, in the chat. And echoing what you just said, Kenny, we, because the mayor, under her leadership, we finally implemented Toleo, which is a hiring tool. And in that hiring tool, you not only have language access, but then there's opportunities for you to say, hey, I'm a bilingual person.
Right.
I can work, I can be a spokesperson for your department. One of the things that I want to revive and I'm looking at right now, I have a group of fellows that are working on a implementing a government-wide language access policy that it's looking at every nick and cranny that we have in the city to make sure that we are as inclusive as possible, and that also it offers the opportunity for people to maximize their talent that they bring to the table. If they speak another language, we want to make sure that you are part of the workforce, whether you are a driver or you are a tax collector or somebody that's dealing with marriage licenses. So we want to make sure that not only you can work for the city and feel comfortable and speak your language and connect with other people in your language, but also that if you are an entrepreneur and you're looking for the opportunity to open a business in the city, that you understand the process in how you feel more comfortable. So
Hiring
you can
diverse
thrive
talent
and you
from
can
diverse
succeed.
people.
It
Yeah.
is very important.
It is, it is. And I agree. So I have a few questions and I know some will come in, so we can just go ahead and answer some of those questions. I'm gonna combine two of Paul's questions that he has here. How can someone get involved in the city plans, especially for housing? And he's asking if how can somebody get involved in county committees dedicated to these initiatives?
Well, we have open
Well,
public meetings of
let's
our planning
see.
commission, so you can attend those planning commission meetings and give input. Also, our county council is a large way we get input from the public. And if you're a county citizen that lives in the county, you can come and you have a free minutes to speak to county council about new business,
Mhm,
about things that are important. Uh, what I'm saying there is that our communication lines are open. Also, you'll see a lot of our planners working on the 2050 planning comprehensive plan out in the public.
mhm,
We were just recently at the air show. We go to different churches, we go to different
mhm.
synagogues, we go to different events, community events, we go to food truck Fridays events. Stop and take a moment and talk to them. We really want to hear your input. I can't stress enough how important it is for us to go out into the community and talk to stakeholders about the community we're trying to make better. And that's what we're doing on both sides. Like I said, this is really a regional effort. we work in unity, but we work towards a simple goal, and that is to make this whole area better through immigration.
Yeah, and when it comes to the housing and the planning for the housing, the St. Louis Land Reutilization Plan has we're looking for people for the Planning Commission, and that will be part of what dictates housing in the future and development and so forth. So as long as you are a city resident, you are welcome to apply to the Planning Commission. They are some specifics that they're looking for. For example, they're looking for registered engineers that are working in the landscape, that they understand what it takes to build development and so forth. But everybody's welcome to apply. I work with Michael at the commissions and board. He is the director of the commissions and boards appointments or recommendations, and I work with him in recommending people that are foreign born to participate in this that as long as they're residents of the city and they have been naturalized, then they can participate in the planning commission as well. So if anybody has somebody that they want to send my way, please email me. You can access our website, City of St. Louis dash mo.gov, and look for the Office of New Americans or look under my name and you have my email. You can get in contact with me immediately and give me the names. And if they live in the city, I will recommend them to be on the planning commission. And they're an engineer that is registered. That's very important.
I will take that same opportunity to invite you to contact our boards and commission, or you can contact my office, which is K Murdock at St. Louis County, mo.gov. You can send me an email. But for all of our different boards and commission, we believe diversity pushes this whole region forward. So please
Mhm.
apply. We'll take who has good credibility and who works for the board and commission, but we just want more people applying so we can get that diverse texture into our boards and commission and really start policy off the right way.
And Kenny, let me say this. Let me say this because this is very important for the audience. Whether you are somebody that is um, a new American resettling in San Luis or thinking to staying here, um, or you are an influencer or a leader in your community and you're listening to the webinar, it is important, it is imperative that we come out of the shell and
Mhm.
say we are going to participate. A lot of people they say, "Well, I don't know, they're not going to listen to me. I have an accent, or I don't, I have a different culture." I encourage you, and that's why it is important to work with organizations like San Luis Mosaic Project, with the International Mentoring Program, the XPACT, and all the
Mhm.
training that Betsy Cohen does
Mhm.
and Susan Sierra do, they do to make sure to encourage participation. Because if we don't sit at the table and not just sit at the table, but use our voices, we will not have representation. So if we have opportunities in the city and in the county for you to join a commission, apply. Let
Absolutely.
them
Absolutely.
say you don't qualify. Apply. If
Apply.
you have the credentials, obviously, and if you're once again at this point in time, and we're working with Anna Crossling and the Charter Commission here in the city on how the city works in the future. And I know that language access is very much an important part of the new Charter Commission plan that we will hopefully get to the voters in November or sometime next year. But also to make sure that if you are a naturalized resident, a citizen that lives in the city of San Luis, you are welcome to apply
Absolutely.
in any board or commission so you can use your voice and help our new American communities grow.
I have a
Yes.
little saying I say with that, and that is I say the same thing around voting. If you have the right to vote, we want to encourage you to vote. And certain naturalized citizens, they have the right to vote. So we translate all voting materials into different languages, and we try and make voting in this whole region as easy as legally possible and right for those citizens who have the right to vote. But the same thing
Mm-hmm.
about board and commissions, I think apathy is the enemy. Don't think that you don't have a place to make this community better, because you do. Don't Please know
Mm-hmm.
that we want not only to hear your voice, but to learn about your input and some of your background, your culture. That helps make this community a lot better. I don't necessarily. I'm not here to plug Betsy Cohen's book, but she did put out a really good book that talks about immigration and hiring and things like that. And in that, she really spelled out clearly that there's a lot of jobs that are really desiring to get a diverse people into their jobs, into their workspaces, because that helps grow this region. St. Louis County and St. Louis City, we want you on our boards and commissions badly so you can help shape and form that policy. The other thing that we want to make sure that is important that you know is that when we're hiring jobs, if you're qualified for to be hired by St. Louis County, St. Louis, please apply. We want to see more people applying to different
Mm-hmm.
jobs, not just boards of commission, but actually there might be a lot of people might not be thinking about the job you could have in our parks department or the job you could have
Mm-hmm.
at one of our other different departments. There are a lot of different jobs. Go on our website and take a look and see what might be right for you.
All right.
Yeah, and yeah, go ahead, Annie. I'm sorry.
No, if
We
you
can keep going.
okay. So
No,
the
no,
next
no. Go
question,
ahead.
yeah, the next question that I would like you guys to address is, how do the city and the county celebrate different ethnicities during the year? Because I know we have, like, Hispanic Heritage Month, we have Africa Day, we have
Mm-hmm.
Asian, API month. So, like, how does the city and the county celebrate those ethnicities during the year?
I don't know if we separate
Well,
as much as we invest in the different months, like Asian API
mm-hmm.
month. We celebrate those with them. We try to attend different chamber of commerces so we can hear on the ground what those individuals need as far as growing their business. Sometimes a lot of local businesses, just someone has a good idea, but they don't know how to get started on their business in this community, and we try and help them with that. And we try and present to them how do you start growing a new business, and how do you start growing your
Mm-hmm.
business in the language you best digest, instead of handing you something in the language you don't understand. So
Yeah.
our economic development team is a really good team. Our St. Louis Economic Development Partnership, ran by Rodney Krim, is an outstanding team to help learn where we should invest the money in people who are helping people. And that's where we really look at. We want to help people who are going to help people in this region. So we do take a long time to scrutinize, but also take that welcoming open door that if you want to apply to something, please apply. Our resume takers are ready to take your resume, are people who are ready to hear from you, and we're ready to try and grow this community the right way. And that is with jobs, that is with understanding, that is with empathy towards some people coming from traumatic backgrounds, but realizing that together we can build this region, but we have to do it together.
So specifically speaking about how we celebrate the differences that are in living, the different communities that are living here, echoing Ken earlier comments about we participate in as many events as we can participate. I know Mayor Jones has entrusted me many times to be able to bring proclamations. My first proclamation last year was in a Nuwali
Oh,
celebration in Bridgeton. And that was the first week that was in my job. And as of recent, Ubuntu, participation in celebrations with the AAPI organizations in hosting the AAPI month, and then trying to make sure that we are very present as much as we can in activities and things that are happening in our new American communities. Now, I want to answer a question that came through the chat that said, how do the mayor's office or the county can help in the African diaspora community? How can it help us be more inclusive? And one of the things, and these are very minute things, but I think that they're so important. With going back to the Notify STL PSA that we are informing people. We did the PSA in Swahili. One of the PSAs were in Swahili asking people to be recruited. We are working diligently to make sure that understanding that there are new African immigrants that are coming into the region, what is the best language that we can use in order to communicate with those communities, and then sitting at the table, visiting with the, I had the opportunity to go to the first Unity Gala for the African diaspora, um, and sit down with them and talk about how can we collaborate in order to make sure that the community is inclusive of what's going on. And to answer Suzanne Sierra's question about, you prefer in certain commissions and boards, it's preferable that you live in the city, but it is depending on which commission we're talking about and which board we're talking about. So the best way to do is to go into the to stlcity.gov and check on the commissions and boards and see which one is open and what is available. And then, if you are a new American and you want to participate because you're naturalized and you're a resident of the city of St. Louis, or maybe you live in Maplewood, but you still want to be involved, then get in contact with me and we go from there and
Great. So
see
you
what.
just, I like that you just answered two of the questions that were coming next. So
Yeah.
I like that. And we have a question before I go to the final question. Who are the major partners and collaborators that provide resources to new Americans? Do you have like few that you
Oh,
can mention? I know you have been mentioning some.
International Institute,
Oh
the
yeah.
International Institute, Mosaic. We interact with different populations through different departments often. But I just have to really laud the work from the International Institute and laud the work from the Mosaic Project, the work with Susan Gobo's doing with the expats. There are stars in our community that are making our community better all the time, and they should get their flowers, as my young nephew would say. And I really thank them for their work and pledge to continue to work with them to help them touch different communities and have those different communities recognized. But those were just the three of our stars. There's also Casa de Salud. There's also, there, I mean, to start the list would be keep
Hmm.
going down. But here's the thing that's important. I know both me and Gilberto will meet with these people throughout the year, and our door and our telephone is
Hmm.
always open to receive calls from them. And our answer is usually, how can we help? How can we make this a little bit better?
Yeah, and Kenny, just to echo what you just said, the important work that the St. Louis Mosaic Project is doing in order to welcoming global talent to St. Louis is very important for attraction. What the World Trade Center is doing to make sure that we have direct flights to different cities that are international cities, it's very important, and that we can continue to expand on trade missions. But I even go to the most um, direct service grassroots provider that are out there. I work with IFCLA, MICA. I
Hmm.
am working with the ISPN, the Immigrant Service Provider Network, to make sure that we are all inclusive. San Francisco Community Services abriendo puertas, LifeWide, welcoming uh,
Wow.
welcoming cities. I work with so many different organizations, and I have learned in the past 7.5 months about so many acronyms that I cannot mention them right now. Whether it's the Hispanic Leaders Group, or I'm very proud of the fact that San Luis Santos, the STL Santos, that our fan group that is Latino, just work with promo our LGBTQIA plus advocate community in the state of organization in the state of Missouri. They're advocating for human rights, for rights to be inclusive for all, and all means all. So San Luis Santos right now during Prime Month, they partner with Promo, and they are giving donations of the proceeds that they collect before the games on merchandise that they sell in order to help promo. That to me is so glorious because
Hmm.
we are talking about a St. Louis sports organization partnering with an LGBTQIA plus organization in order to make life better for a new
Everybody.
American that may be LGBTQ and they feel that they don't belong. To me, that is so grand and important, and it deserves kudos. So I am, working with all these different organizations, whether it's the International Institute or San Francisco Community Services, and seeing where we can fit and where we can make an impact and where we can be transformational and where we can collaborate because collaboration is key.
Yeah.
I
So
want to touch on
we
one
have
thing.
2 minutes.
We
Go
have
ahead.
2 minutes. I want to touch on one quick second, and that is St. Louis County actually does also
Sorry.
work with the Ethnic Community Response Network, and that there are a lot of communities that have people in those communities that are suffering from substance abuse, and we want to touch them and make sure we can make them whole also. And ECORN is a great organization that works with people who have opioid problems. They specifically work with ethnic
Mhm.
communities, and we work with them, and we've brought them to the table to talk to County Executive Page and working with projects to make sure that families are safer from opioids.
That's fantastic.
That's one. Yes, I just lost
Okay.
my. Okay, sorry, I just lost my question here that I was trying to find. That was the last question. Oh, there it is. So it's from Tiziana. How do you help immigrants access quality, affordable childcare since it's such a foundation service to support workforce participation? I don't know if you can answer that in a minute.
That's a longer than a minute. We're not a direct child care provider. Our Department of Public Health does have some options
Hmm.
to help that, but the county government itself can't be a direct child care provider. But what we can do is go out and certify all the places that do provide child care services, make sure they're up to a certain standard. We have people looking at those child care providers and people work with children to make sure nothing bad is going on and that they have a certain standard of care given, and we do that constantly vigilant.
Yeah, and I just want to reiterate, and I just want to be very, very clear. The Office of New Americans for the City of St. Louis is not a direct service provider. We are a bridge, we are a convener, we are a collaborator. We seek to engage with partnerships of direct service providers, such as the obvious ones like the International Institute or other faith based groups that are working on that space. But we are not a direct service provider. However, we will be your ombudsperson, as you know, they have
Ombudsman,
that
yes.
office. Will be there at the table to ensure that representation is is counted upon, that we can be our new Americans are represented in every little aspect that we do as government. So if there's a need for healthcare, if there's a need for childcare, we will seek out the opportunity to be able to connect and to empower our community service organizations to engage with our government. That's what we're here for.
All right. So we are. It's 12:01. I wish we could stay. This is a great discussion, but we want to respect people's time. I just wanted to say thank you so much, Gilberto and Kenny, for being here. I think this was a great discussion. I wanted to remind our attendees that this was recorded, so will be sent to you via email, and I'll make sure that I include their emails and all the links that they talked about today when I send a follow-up email. Thank you so much for being here. See you next time for STL101.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good day.
Thank you, everybody. And I just put my email on the chat.
Me
Okay.
too.
Thank you again.
Thank you
Muchas
again.
gracias.